Captain Marcus Thompson walked slowly through the palace gardens. The sun was setting and long shadows fell across the neat paths. He had been a royal guard for 15 years. Every day he walked the same route around the palace grounds. It was his job to keep everyone safe. Marcus liked this time of day. The gardens were quiet. Most visitors had gone home. The only sounds were birds singing in the trees and water flowing in the fountain. He checked his watch. It was almost 6 o'clock. Soon he could go home to his wife and 2 children. As he turned the corner near the rose garden, Marcus heard something strange. It was very quiet, but it sounded like someone crying. He stopped walking and listened carefully. The sound came from behind the tall green hedges that surrounded the flower beds. Marcus walked toward the sound. His heavy boots made soft sounds on the gravel path. He pushed aside the branches of a large bush and looked behind it. What he saw made his heart stop. A young girl sat on the ground. She was crying very softly, trying not to make noise. Her clothes were dirty and torn. Her school uniform was covered in mud and grass stains. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. The girl looked about 12 years old. She had long dark hair that was messy and full of leaves. Her small hands shook as she tried to wipe the blood from her face. When she saw Marcus, she tried to move away from him. Her eyes were wide with fear. Marcus had seen many things in his 15 years as a guard. He had dealt with thieves, protesters, and dangerous people. But seeing this scared little girl made him feel sick to his stomach. Someone had hurt her badly. "Hey there," Marcus said in a gentle voice. He got down on one knee so he would not look so tall and scary. "My name is Marcus. I'm a guard here. I want to help you." The girl stared at him with big brown eyes. Tears kept running down her dirty cheeks. She opened her mouth to speak, but only a whisper came out. "Please don't hurt me anymore," she said. These words hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. This child thought he might hurt her. Someone had already hurt her so badly that she was afraid of everyone. Marcus slowly reached for his radio to call for help. But when he moved, the girl became more scared. She tried to crawl away from him, even though she was clearly in pain. "I'm not going to hurt you," Marcus said. He put his radio back on his belt. "I promise. I just want to help you feel better." The girl stopped trying to move away. She looked at his uniform. She saw the Royal Guard badge on his chest. Slowly, some of the fear left her eyes. "You're really a guard?" she asked. Marcus said, "I protect people. That's my job." Marcus took off his blue ceremonial cloak. It was the one he wore during important palace events. Carefully, he wrapped it around the girl's shoulders. The cloak was much too big for her, but it was warm and clean. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. "Elena," the girl whispered. "Elena Vasquez. Elena is a beautiful name," Marcus said. "Elena, someone hurt you. I can see that. You need a doctor to look at your cuts." Elena touched the cut on her forehead. More blood came out and she winced with pain. "I was hiding," Elena said. "I've been hiding here for 2 hours. I was scared they would find me." "Who were you hiding from?" Marcus asked. Elena looked around the garden as if the bad people might still be watching. She moved closer to Marcus, as if his presence made her feel safer. "3 men," she said. "They've been following me. They hurt me because of my mama." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. Someone had hurt this innocent child. But he kept his voice calm and gentle. "Where is your mama now?" he asked. Elena's eyes filled with fresh tears. "I don't know. She's been gone for 3 days. She didn't come home from work." Marcus knew he needed to get Elena medical help right away. But he also knew something terrible had happened to this family. The girl was not just lost or hurt by accident. Someone had done this on purpose. "Elena," Marcus said, "I need to call a doctor to help with your cuts. Is that okay?" Elena nodded. But then she grabbed Marcus's arm with both hands. Her small fingers held onto him tightly. "I have to tell someone important," she said. Her voice was stronger now. "They said no one would believe me. But you're a guard, you have to listen." Marcus looked into Elena's eyes. He saw fear, but he also saw determination. This brave little girl had something important to say. "I'm listening," Marcus said. "Tell me everything." Elena took a shaky breath. "My mama works at the courthouse. She stays late lots of nights working on important papers. 3 weeks ago, she started acting scared. She would look out the windows all the time. She made me promise to stay inside after school." Marcus listened carefully. Elena's story was becoming more serious. "Last week, Mama gave me something too." "Keep safe," Elena continued. "She said if anything bad happened to her, I should give it to a judge. She said it was very important." Elena reached into her torn school jacket. Her hand came out holding a small USB drive. It was covered in blood from her cuts, but she held it like it was the most precious thing in the world. "This has important information on it," Elena said. "Mama said it could help lots of people, but the bad men want it. They hurt me to try to get it." Marcus stared at the USB drive. He was beginning to understand that this was much bigger than one hurt child. Elena and her mother were involved in something that could be very dangerous. "Elena," Marcus said carefully, "do you know what kind of information is on there?" "Mama said some people at the courthouse are doing bad things," Elena said. She found proof. She was going to tell the police, but then she disappeared. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. If Elena's mother had discovered corruption at the courthouse, and if she had evidence to prove it, then both she and Elena were in serious danger. "The men who hurt you," Marcus said, "did they say anything about what they wanted?" Elena nodded. "They kept asking where Mama hid the files. They said I'd better tell them or they would hurt me worse. But I don't know about any files. I only have this." She held up the USB drive again. Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. This little girl needed protection, and she had evidence of serious crimes. He could not just call the local police. If there really was corruption at the courthouse, he did not know who could be trusted. "Elena," Marcus said, "I believe you, and I'm going to help you. But first, we need to get you to a doctor." Elena smiled for the first time since he found her. It was a small, weak smile, but it gave Marcus hope. "You really believe me?" she asked. "I really believe you," Marcus said. "And we're going to make sure the right people hear your story." Marcus helped Elena stand up slowly. She was weak and shaky, but she held onto his arm for support. The big blue cloak dragged on the ground behind her. As they walked toward the guard station was a small building near the main palace entrance. Inside, there was a first aid kit and a place where Elena could sit safely while they figured out what to do next. Marcus opened the door and led Elena to a comfortable chair. "Wait here," Marcus said gently. "I'm going to call." The palace doctor, Dr. Sarah Chun, arrived 15 minutes later. She was a kind woman who had worked at the palace for many years. When she saw Elena's injuries, her face became very serious. "Oh, you poor child," Dr. Chun said. She opened her medical bag and began cleaning Elena's cuts. "These are not accident injuries. Someone did this to you on purpose." Elena winced as the doctor cleaned the cut on her forehead. But she did not cry. She was trying to be brave. "The cut needs stitches," Dr. Chun told Marcus. "But first I want to check for other injuries." Dr. Chun found bruises on Elena's arms and back. There was also a twisted ankle that made walking painful. But the worst injury was the fear in Elena's eyes. Someone had scared this child very badly while Dr. Chun worked. Marcus sat next to Elena. He wanted her to feel safe enough to tell him more about what had happened. "Elena," Marcus said softly, "you said 3 men hurt you. Can you tell me more about them?" Elena looked around the room to make sure they were alone. Then she spoke in a whisper. "I've seen them before," she said. "They started following our family 3 weeks ago. At first, Mama thought she was just being paranoid. But then we both started seeing the same black car everywhere we went." Dr. Chun finished cleaning Elena's cuts and began putting bandages on them. Elena continued her story. "The men would sit in their car outside our apartment building. They would watch when I walked to school. One time, one of them took pictures of me with a big camera." Marcus felt his anger growing. These men had been stalking a child and her mother for weeks. Did you tell anyone about this? Marcus asked. Mama called the police, Elena said. But when the officers came to our apartment, they said they couldn't do anything unless the men actually did something. Illegal. They said taking pictures from a public street wasn't a crime. Dr. Chun shook her head sadly. She had finished treating Elena's physical injuries, but she could see the emotional damage would take much longer to heal. You're going to be okay. Dr. Chun told Elena, your cuts will heal in a few days, but you need to stay somewhere safe. Elena's eyes filled with tears again. I don't know where Mama is. I don't know if she's okay. Marcus pulled his chair closer to Elena. Tell me more about your Mama's work. You said she found something important at the courthouse. Elena nodded. Mama is a clerk. She files papers and organizes case files for the judges. She's worked there for 8 years. She likes her job because she feels like she's helping with justice. Elena paused to take a sip of water that Dr. Chun had given her. About a month ago, Mama started staying late at work every night. She said she was working on a big case. But when she came home, she looked worried and scared. Did she tell you what kind of case? Marcus asked. She said she couldn't talk about it because it was confidential, but I could tell it was something bad. She started checking the locks on our door 3 times every night. She wouldn't let me walk to school alone anymore. Elena reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the blood-stained USB drive again. 2 weeks ago, Mama woke me up in the middle of the night. She gave me this and made me promise to keep it safe. She said if anything happened to her, I should take it to Judge Morrison at the main courthouse. Marcus had heard of Judge Morrison. She was known for being honest and fair. If Elena's mother trusted her, that was a good sign. What did your mama say was on the USB drive? Marcus asked. Elena thought for a moment. She said it was proof that some people were doing very bad things. She said they were supposed to help people get justice, but instead they were helping criminals. Dr. Chun had been listening to the conversation. Now she spoke up. Elena, this sounds very dangerous. If your mother found evidence of corruption, the people involved would do anything to stop her from revealing it. Elena nodded sadly. That's what Mama said. She told me that some people care more about money than about doing the right thing. Marcus leaned forward. Elena, tell me about the day your Mama disappeared. Elena's voice became very quiet. It was 3 days ago. Mama went to work in the morning like always, but she seemed extra scared. She hugged me really tight before she left. She made me promise to go straight home after school and lock the door. Elena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Mama always comes home by 6 o'clock, but that night she didn't come home at all. I waited and waited. I called her phone, but it just went to voicemail. What did you do then? Marcus asked. I was too scared to leave the apartment. I thought maybe Mama was just working very late. But when she didn't come home the next morning, I knew something was wrong. Elena's voice started shaking. Yesterday, I finally got brave enough to go to the courthouse to look for her. I thought maybe she was just stuck at work and couldn't call. Marcus and Dr. Chun exchanged worried looks. They both had a bad feeling about what Elena was going to say next. When I got to the courthouse, I went to Mama's office. But her boss said she never came to work that day. He said she called in sick, but Mama wasn't sick when she left our apartment. Elena pulled the cloak tighter around her shoulders. I was walking home from the courthouse when I saw the black car again. This time it followed me. I got scared and started running. But there were 3 men, and they surrounded me in an alley. Marcus clenched his fists. He hated thinking about these grown men attacking a child. What did they say to you? He asked. They wanted to know where Mama hid the files. They kept saying she stole something that belonged to their boss. They said if I told them where the files were, they wouldn't hurt me or Mama. Elena touched the bandage on her forehead. But I really don't know about any files. I only have the USB drive that Mama gave me. When I told them that, they got very angry. That's when they started hitting me. Dr. Chun put a gentle hand on Elena's shoulder. You're very brave for telling. You asked this. Elena looked up at Marcus with hopeful eyes. Do you think you can help me find Mama? Marcus felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This little girl was depending on him. Her mother was missing, probably kidnapped or worse, and Elena had evidence that could expose serious crimes. Elena, Marcus said, I promise I will do everything I can to help you find your mama. But first, we need to make sure you're safe. And we need to get that USB drive to someone who can use it to stop the bad people. Elena smiled slightly. For the first time in days, she felt like someone was really listening to her and taking her seriously. Judge Morrison? She asked. Judge Morrison, Marcus agreed, but we have to be very careful. If these men are still looking for you, we need to make sure they can't find you again. Elena nodded. She understood that she was still in danger, but now she had help. Marcus was a guard, and guards protected people. Maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. Outside the guard station, the sun had completely set. The palace grounds were dark except for the security lights along the pathways. Marcus knew that tomorrow would be a very important day. Tomorrow, they would take Elena's evidence to Judge Morrison and hopefully start the process of getting justice for Elena and her missing mother. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the guard station early. He had not slept well. All night, he kept thinking about Elena and her missing mother. He also thought about the USB drive and what might be on it. Elena was still sleeping on the small couch in the station's back room. Dr. Chun had given her medicine for pain, and she was finally getting some rest. Marcus did not want to wake her, but they had important work to do. When Elena opened her eyes, she looked confused for a moment. Then she remembered where she was and why she was there. She sat up slowly, being careful of her injured ankle. Good morning, Elena, Marcus said gently. How are you feeling? A little better, Elena said. Her voice was still weak, but she seemed more alert than the night before. Are we going to see Judge Morrison today? Marcus nodded. Yes, but we need to be very careful. I've been thinking about what you told me yesterday. Marcus sat down next to Elena. He had been awake most of the night making plans. Elena, you said that when you went to the courthouse to look for your mama, you saw the black car again. That means those men are watching the courthouse. They might be expecting you to go back there. Elena's eyes grew wide. She had not thought about this. So we can't go to the courthouse? She asked. We can go, Marcus said. But we have to be very smart about how we do it. I can't just drive you there in my regular guard car. We need to make sure no one sees us coming. Marcus had spent the early morning talking to two other guards he trusted completely. Their names were James and David. They had worked with Marcus for many years, and he knew they would help keep Elena safe. I've asked two other guards to help us, Marcus explained. They're going to drive a different route to the courthouse and watch for the black car. If they see it, they'll warn us. Elena looked worried. What if the bad men see them? James and David are very good at their jobs, Marcus said. They know how to watch people without being seen. And they both want to help you find your mama. Dr. Chun arrived with breakfast for Elena. It was just toast and orange juice, but Elena was hungry. She had not eaten much in the past 3 days. While Elena ate, Marcus explained his plan in more detail. We're going to use an unmarked car, he said. It looks like a regular family car, not a guard vehicle. I'll drive, and you'll sit in the back seat. If anyone is watching, they'll just see a father driving his daughter somewhere. Elena finished her toast and looked at Marcus seriously. What if Judge Morrison doesn't believe me? She asked. She believe you, Marcus said. Judge Morrison is known for being fair and honest. And you have evidence on that USB drive. Evidence doesn't lie. Marcus helped Elena put on a clean jacket that Dr. Chun had brought from her own daughter's closet. Elena's school uniform was too dirty and torn to wear again. At 10 o'clock, Marcus and Elena left the guard station through the back door. The unmarked car was waiting in the alley behind the building. It was a blue sedan that looked very ordinary. Remember, Marcus said as they got in the car, if you see the black car or any of those men, tell me right away. Don't try to hide. Or be brave, just tell me immediately. Elena nodded and buckled her seatbelt. She held the USB drive tightly in her hand. The drive to the courthouse took 20 minutes. Marcus took a longer route than usual, going through quiet residential streets instead of main roads. Every few minutes, he checked his mirrors to make sure no one was following them. "Marcus," Elena said about halfway there, "I'm scared about." "What might be on the USB drive? What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "What if it shows that Mama was in danger because of what she found? What if the bad people hurt her because she was trying to do the right thing?" Marcus could hear the fear in Elena's voice. She was worried that her mother's desire to expose corruption had gotten her killed. "Elena," Marcus said carefully, "your mama is a very brave woman. She found evidence of people doing bad things, and she wanted to stop them. That takes a lot of courage." Elena was quiet for a moment. "I just want her to come home," she whispered. "I know," Marcus said. "And the best way to help her is to make sure Judge Morrison sees what's on that USB drive. If there really are corrupt people at the courthouse, Judge Morrison can stop them. And if they have your mama, she can help get her back." As they got closer to the courthouse, Marcus's radio crackled. It was James, one of the guards helping with security. "Marcus, this is James. I'm in position near the courthouse. I can see a black sedan parked across the street from the main entrance. 2 men are sitting inside." Marcus felt his heart rate increase. Elena was right. The men were still watching the courthouse, waiting for her to return. "Copy that, James. Can you see the license plate?" "Yes, it's the same car Elena described. They're definitely waiting for something." Marcus made a quick decision. "James, I'm going to drive around to the back entrance of the courthouse. Can you?" "And David create a distraction near the front?" "What kind of distraction?" James asked. "Nothing dangerous. Maybe ask them for directions or pretend to have car trouble near their vehicle. Just keep their attention on you while we go in the back." Got it. Give us 5 minutes." Marcus explained the situation to Elena. She looked nervous but determined. "Those are the same men who hurt you," Marcus said. "But they're not going to get another chance. We're going to sneak past them." Marcus drove around to the back of the courthouse building. There was a parking garage used by courthouse employees. He parked near the entrance that led directly to the judge's chambers. "Elena," Marcus said, "from now until we get to Judge Morrison's office, stay close to me. Don't let go of my hand." Elena nodded and gripped Marcus's hand tightly. They walked quickly through the parking garage and into the courthouse building. Marcus knew the layout well because he had provided security for court events before Judge Morrison's office was on the 3rd floor. Marcus and Elena took the elevator up, and Marcus used his guard identification to get past the security checkpoint. As they walked down the hallway toward Judge Morrison's office, Elena suddenly stopped. "Marcus," she whispered urgently, "that man coming out of that office. I've seen him before." Marcus looked down the hallway. A tall man in a security guard uniform was walking toward them. He had not noticed them yet. "Where did you see him?" Marcus asked quietly. "He was one of the men who hurt me," Elena said. Her voice was shaking with fear. "He works here. He's a courthouse security guard." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. If one of Elena's attackers worked at the courthouse, then the corruption went deeper than they had thought. The criminals had people on the inside. "Elena," Marcus said urgently, "we need to get to Judge Morrison's office right now." They hurried down the hallway, trying to look casual but moving as fast as they could. Marcus hoped the corrupt security guard would not recognize Elena. Just as they reached Judge Morrison's office door, Marcus heard footsteps behind them. He turned and saw the security guard walking toward them with a suspicious look on his face. "Excuse me," the guard called out. "What are you doing up here?" Marcus showed his Royal Guard badge. "Official business," he said firmly. "The security?" Guard's eyes widened when he saw Elena. Marcus could tell that the man recognized her immediately. "Elena," Marcus whispered, "knock on Judge Morrison's door." "Right now?" Elena knocked loudly on the office door. A voice from inside called, "Come in." Marcus opened the door and quickly pushed Elena inside. Then he turned to face the corrupt security guard who was now reaching for his radio. "Judge Morrison," Marcus called through the open door, We need your help immediately. This child has evidence of corruption, and one of the people involved is standing right here in your hallway." Judge Morrison appeared in her doorway. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. When she saw the tense situation in the hallway, she immediately understood that something serious was happening. "Everyone into my office," Judge Morrison said in a voice that demanded obedience. Now, the corrupt security guard realized he had been caught. He turned and ran down the hallway toward the stairs. "Let him go," Judge Morrison said to Marcus. "We have more important things to worry about right now." Marcus and Elena entered Judge Morrison's office. Elena was shaking, but she still held the USB drive firmly in her hand. "Judge Morrison," Elena said in a small but clear voice, "my mama sent me to give you this. She said you would know what to do with it." Judge Morrison closed her office door and locked it. She looked at Elena with kind but serious eyes. Elena sat in a big leather chair that made her look even smaller than she was. Marcus's blue cloak was still wrapped around her shoulders. "Child, what is your name?" Judge Morrison asked gently. "Elena Vasquez," Elena answered. Her voice was quiet, but she spoke clearly. "My mama is Maria Vasquez. She works here as a clerk." Judge Morrison's expression changed. "I know your mother. She's a good worker and an honest person. I haven't seen her for several days." "Where is she?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "She's been missing for 3 days. I think the bad people took her because of what she found." Elena held up the USB drive with shaking hands. "Mama told me to give this to you if anything happened to her. She said it has proof that some people here are doing terrible things." Judge Morrison took the USB drive carefully. She plugged it into her computer and waited for it to load. Marcus stood by the door, listening for any sounds in the hallway. The computer screen filled with folders and files. Judge Morrison opened the first folder and began reading. As she read, her face became very grave. "Elena," Judge Morrison said, "this is very serious information. Are you sure your mother gave this to you?" "Yes," Elena said. "Mama worked late every night for weeks, copying files and recording conversations. She said she had to be very careful, because the bad people were watching her." Judge Morrison opened another folder. This one contained audio files. She clicked on one and listened through her headphones. After a few minutes, she took off the headphones and looked at Elena with amazement. "This is evidence of a major corruption scheme," Judge Morrison said. "Your mother has documented meetings, phone calls, and financial transactions that prove several officials here have been taking bribes." Elena leaned forward in her chair. "What kind of bribes?" "According to these files, some judges and lawyers have been paid to dismiss criminal cases. Serious criminals have been allowed to go free because someone paid the right people enough money." Marcus felt sick to his stomach. The justice system was supposed to protect innocent people like Elena and her mother. Instead, corrupt officials had been helping criminals escape punishment. Judge Morrison continued looking through the files. She found photographs of secret meetings between courthouse officials and known crime bosses. She found bank records showing large payments into the personal accounts of 3 judges and a district attorney. "Elena," Judge Morrison said, "your mother risked her life to gather this evidence. She knew how dangerous it was, but she did it anyway because she wanted to stop these criminals." "Is that why the bad men took her?" Elena asked. "I'm afraid so," Judge Morrison said sadly. "The people involved in this corruption would do anything to keep their crimes secret." Judge Morrison opened a folder labeled Recordings. It contained dozens of audio files of phone conversations and meetings. "Elena, I need to listen to some of these recordings. Some of what you might hear could be upsetting. Would you like Captain Thompson to take you to another room while I review the evidence?" Elena shook her head firmly. "No, I want to hear what Mama found. She risked everything for this. I need to know the truth." Judge Morrison nodded. She understood that Elena needed to know what her mother had discovered, even if it was frightening. The first recording was a phone conversation between Deputy District Attorney Richard Holbrook and an unknown man. Elena listened as they discussed dropping charges against a drug dealer in exchange for $50,000. That's one of the men who hurt me, Elena said suddenly. I recognize his voice. That's Da Holbrook. Judge Morrison paused the recording. Are you certain? Yes, he was one of the 3 men who attacked me yesterday. I heard him talking on his phone while the other 2 men hit me. Marcus stepped forward. Elena, this is very important. You're saying that District Attorney Holbrook was personally involved in your attack? Elena nodded. He told the other men to hurt me until I told them where Mama hid the files. He said they couldn't let Mama's evidence reach a judge. Judge Morrison's face grew red with anger. A district attorney was supposed to prosecute criminals, not work with them. And he had personally participated in the assault of a child. The next recording was even more shocking. It was a conversation between Judge Parker and Judge Williams, discussing how to split money they had received for dismissing murder charges against a gang leader. These men have been selling justice to the highest bidder, Judge Morrison said. Murderers, drug dealers, and other dangerous criminals have been set free because their bosses could afford to pay bribes. Elena listened to more recordings. In one, she heard Da Holbrook promising to make sure that anyone who tried to investigate the corruption would be arrested on false charges. Mama knew this was dangerous, Elena said. That's why she was so scared in the last few weeks. She knew these people would hurt her if they found out what she was doing. Judge Morrison found a file labeled Financial Records. It showed bank account information for the corrupt officials. Over the past year, Judge Parker had received over $300,000 in bribes. Judge Williams had received $200,000. Da Holbrook had received the most, nearly $500,000. With this evidence, we can prove that these officials have been corrupt for years, Judge Morrison said. Your mother documented everything perfectly. Elena looked at Judge Morrison with hope in her eyes. Does this mean you can stop them? Can you help find Mama? Yes, Judge Morrison said firmly. This evidence is more than enough to arrest all of them. And if they know where your mother is, we'll make them tell us. Judge Morrison picked up her phone and dialed a number. I'm calling the FBI, she explained to Elena. Corruption at this level requires federal investigation. While Judge Morrison spoke to the FBI, Elena turned to Marcus. Marcus, do you really think we can save Mama? Marcus knelt down beside Elena's chair. Elena, I think your mama is a hero. She risked everything to expose these criminals. And because of her courage and yours, justice will finally be served. Elena smiled slightly. It was the first real smile Marcus had seen from her. Judge Morrison finished her phone call. The FBI is sending agents here immediately. They'll arrest Holbrook, Parker, and Williams within the hour. What about Mama? Elena asked. The FBI will make those men tell them where your mother is, Judge Morrison said. If she's still alive, we'll find her. Elena stood up from her chair. She walked over to Judge Morrison's desk and looked at the computer screen showing all the evidence her mother had gathered. Judge Morrison, Elena said in a clear, strong voice, Mama always told me that justice isn't just about punishing bad people. She said it's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. Elena paused and took a deep breath. She told me that if something happened to her, I should make sure you knew that Judge Parker, Judge Williams, and Da Holbrook have been selling justice to the highest bidder. She said criminals with enough money could buy their way out of any crime. Elena's voice grew stronger as she continued. Mama said that every time they took money to free a criminal, innocent people got hurt. She said that murderers and drug dealers were back on the streets because these men cared more about money than about doing what's right. Judge Morrison listened carefully to every word Elena said. Your mother was absolutely right, Judge Morrison said, and because of her evidence and your bravery in bringing it to me, we're going to make sure these corrupt officials never hurt anyone again. Elena looked directly into Judge Morrison's eyes. Judge Morrison, Mama said that sometimes one person has to stand up to evil, even when it's scary. She said that's how justice really works. She was willing to risk her life to protect people she didn't even know. Elena's words filled the room with a sense of purpose and determination. I want to help you stop them, Elena said. I want to make sure Mama's sacrifice wasn't for nothing. Judge Morrison stood up from her desk. She walked over to Elena and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Elena, you've already helped more than you know. By bringing me this evidence, you've given us the power to stop these criminals and save countless innocent lives. Outside Judge Morrison's office, they could hear footsteps and voices in the hallway. The FBI agents were arriving, and the arrests were about to begin. Judge Morrison's face was hard as stone as she finished reviewing the last of Elena's evidence. She had seen enough corruption cases in her 30 years as a judge, but this was worse than anything she had ever encountered. These officials had not just taken bribes, they had sold the safety of innocent people for money. Elena, Judge Morrison said, what you and your mother have done today will save many lives. This corruption has been going on for years, and who knows how many dangerous criminals have been set free because of these bribes. Judge Morrison picked up her phone and called her assistant. I need you to prepare arrest warrants immediately. 3 warrants for Judge Parker, Judge Williams, and District Attorney Holbrook. Charges include bribery, corruption, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Elena watched from her chair as Judge Morrison worked quickly to make sure the corrupt officials could not escape. Within minutes, official arrest warrants were being prepared. Marcus, Judge Morrison said, I need you to contact Courthouse security and have them locate these 3 men immediately. They must not be allowed to leave the building. Marcus used his radio to contact the honest security guards. This is Captain Thompson. We have arrest warrants for 3 courthouse officials. I need all exits secured immediately. While Marcus coordinated security, Judge Morrison made another phone call. This time she called the FBI field office directly. This is Judge Morrison at the main courthouse. I have evidence of a major corruption ring involving judges and prosecutors. I need federal agents here immediately to make arrests. The FBI agent on the phone asked several questions about the evidence. Judge Morrison explained about Elena's mother and the USB drive containing recordings and financial proof. We'll have agents there within 15 minutes, the FBI agent said. Make sure the suspects don't leave the building. Elena listened to all this activity with growing hope. For 3 days, she had felt helpless and scared. Now, finally, adults were taking action to stop the people who had hurt her and taken her mother. 10 minutes later, Marcus's radio crackled with urgent news. Captain Thompson, this is security. We've located Judge Parker in his chambers. But when we tried to detain him, he became violent and tried to destroy files on his computer. Secure him immediately, Marcus responded. Judge Morrison has issued an arrest warrant. More reports came over the radio. Judge Williams was found trying to leave through a back exit with a briefcase full of cash. The security guard stopped him just before he reached his car, but the most important news came a few minutes later. Captain Thompson, the radio crackled. We have a problem. District Attorney Holbrook is not in the building. His secretary says he left an hour ago for the airport. Judge Morrison's eyes flashed with anger. He's trying to run away, she said. Elena, did you hear any of those men talk about leaving the country? Elena thought back to the terrible experience of being attacked. When they were hitting me, one of them said something about having a plane ready. He said if they couldn't find the files, they would have to leave tonight. Judge Morrison immediately called the FBI again. One of our suspects is trying to flee the country. He's headed to the airport right now. The FBI agent assured Judge Morrison that they would contact airport security and have Holbrook arrested before his plane could take off. 20 minutes after Judge Morrison made her first phone call, FBI agents arrived at the courthouse. They were dressed in dark suits and looked very serious. Agent Sarah Wilson, the lead investigator, came directly to Judge Morrison's office. Judge Morrison, we understand you have evidence of corruption involving courthouse officials. Agent Wilson said. Elena stood up from her chair. She was still wearing Marcus's blue cloak, and she held herself with new confidence. I have the evidence, Elena said clearly. My mother risked her life to gather proof that these people were selling justice to criminals. Agent Wilson looked at this brave 12-year-old girl with respect. And you brought this evidence here despite being threatened and attacked? Yes, Elena said. My mama taught me that sometimes you have to do the right thing even when it's scary. Elena handed the USB drive to Agent Wilson. Everything is on here. Recordings of them planning crimes, pictures of them meeting with criminals, and bank records showing the money they received. Agent Wilson plugged the USB drive into her laptop and began reviewing the files. As she read and listened, her expression became more and more serious. This is extensive evidence of a major criminal conspiracy, Agent Wilson said. Elena, your mother was very thorough. This documentation will put these criminals in prison for many years. While Agent Wilson reviewed the evidence, more news came from around the courthouse. Judge Parker and Judge Williams were officially arrested and taken into custody. Both men tried to claim they were innocent, but the evidence against them was overwhelming. The most dramatic arrest happened at the airport. District Attorney Holbrook was stopped just as he was about to board a flight to Mexico. When FBI agents searched his carry-on luggage, they found over $200,000 in cash and a fake passport. Elena, Agent Wilson said, we've arrested all three of the main suspects. Now we need to find your mother. Elena's eyes filled with hope. Do you think she's still alive? We're going to do everything we can to find her, Agent Wilson promised. Judge Parker has already started talking. He's scared of going to prison for the rest of his life, so he's telling us everything he knows. Agent Wilson received a phone call on her secure FBI phone. She listened for several minutes, occasionally looking at Elena with increasing excitement. Elena, Agent Wilson said after ending the call, we have good news. Judge Parker told us where your mother is being held. Elena jumped up from her chair. Is she okay? According to Parker, she's being held in a warehouse outside the city. The criminals were keeping her alive because they thought they might need to trade her for the evidence she had gathered. Elena started crying, but these were tears of relief. And joy. We're sending a rescue team to the warehouse right now, Agent Wilson continued. If Judge Parker is telling the truth, your mother should be safe within the hour. Marcus put his hand on Elena's shoulder. Elena, you did it. You saved your mother and stopped the criminals. Elena wiped her tears and looked around the room at all the adults who had helped her. My mama always said that justice works when good people refuse to stay silent, Elena said. She said that evil people count on everyone else being too scared to fight back. Judge Morrison stood up and walked over to Elena. Your mother is a hero, Elena, and so are you. 1 hour later, Agent Wilson received the call they had all been waiting for. The FBI rescue team had found the warehouse and successfully rescued Maria Vasquez. She was hurt and scared, but she was alive. Elena, Agent Wilson said with a big smile, your mother is safe. She's being taken to the hospital to be checked by doctors, but she's going to be fine. Elena's face lit up with the biggest smile Marcus had ever seen. She had been through a terrible experience, but her courage had saved her mother and stopped dangerous criminals. When can I see her? Elena asked. As soon as the doctors make sure she's okay, Agent Wilson said. Probably in a few hours. Elena turned to Marcus. Marcus, thank you for believing me. If you hadn't helped me, the bad people would have won. Marcus smiled. Elena, I didn't save anyone. You did. You were brave enough to speak up when it mattered most. Judge Morrison gathered everyone's attention. Elena, what you and your mother have accomplished will have effects far beyond just these 3 arrests. We're now investigating dozens of cases that these corrupt officials handled. Many innocent people who were wrongly convicted will go free. And many dangerous criminals who bought their freedom will finally face justice. Elena looked around the room one more time. My mama always said that one person can make a difference if they're willing to do what's right. 6 months later, Elena and her mother attended the trial where Judge Parker, Judge Williams, and District Attorney Holbrook were sentenced to long prison terms. The corruption investigation led to reforms in the courthouse system that made it much harder for officials to accept bribes. Elena returned to school and became known as the brave girl, who helped expose corruption and save the justice system. She never forgot the lesson her mother taught her, that justice depends on ordinary people having the courage to do extraordinary things. Marcus received a medal for his quick thinking and moral courage. But he always said that the real hero was a 12-year-old girl who refused to let fear stop her from doing what was right. Elena's mother returned to work at the courthouse, where she was promoted to a position helping to prevent corruption. She and Elena were no longer afraid, because they knew that justice had won. The black car that had followed them for weeks was never seen again. The criminals who had terrorized Elena and her family were in prison, where they belonged. Elena kept Marcus's blue cloak as a reminder that even when things seem hopeless, there are always good people willing to help. And she never forgot that sometimes the most important battles are fought not by soldiers or superheroes, but by ordinary people who refuse to stay silent when they witness injustice.